Hey everybody, Aaron here from the Cool Guys Nation, and welcome to this first episode of reviewing the Space Marine Codex. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of an overview, pointing out some of the cool things that I found in the book, and also talking about the general layout of the enhanced version. And that's something I'd like to point out now. Having the actual rulebook is really great for playing, but for understanding the rules, I love the enhanced version. And of course I got the download before I got my actual book in the mail, which hopefully I'll get, I don't know, tomorrow or Monday or something. So I am looking at the enhanced version, and today I'm going to be starting with battle-forged armies and taking a look at the formation. So I'm going to be starting on page 193 of the enhanced book. What we have here is a subtle change to the way Games Workshop is laying out how they organize the force organization structure, and it's something that I really like. So you're going to notice that there's little circles with skulls in it, and then the skull has a symbol, either a circle, an X, or a circle with an X. And I really like this because it makes it very easy for you to understand how to put your formations together to make a viable army. And I think this is a way that Games Workshop is dealing with having fair matchups, making sure that two people can put together an army, allowing all of the different options that Games Workshop does and still have a good game. It gives you a nice, organized version of what you can do to make sure that everything is going to work well together. Now, let's assume that all of the individual rules for each of the Marines and the tanks and whatnot actually function and make a cohesive army. That's another issue. Right now I'm just talking about how much I really like the way that they're doing the force organization chart. So on page 193, the first thing that we find is, of course, the Battle Demi Company. And this is pretty cool. It's a captain or a chaplain, 0 to 1 command squads, 3 tactical squads, 1 assault squad, bike squad, attack bike squad, land speeder or centurion assault squad, 1 devastator squad or centurion devastator squad, 0 to 1 units of dreadnoughts, ironclad dreadnoughts, or venerable dreadnoughts. Now, if you haven't read the book or you haven't been paying attention to any of the leaked information, there's something really important you need to know. All Space Marine vehicles can now be taken in squads of 1 to 3, which means that you can take 1 unit of dreadnoughts, and that can be 3 dreadnoughts. So 3 dreadnoughts is not going to take up a lot of space. What's really cool is that in this first page, on page 193, if you put 2 battle demi companies together, meaning you double it, you have 1 that's being led by a captain and 1 that's being led by a chaplain, you get to take dedicated transports, rhinos, razorbacks, and drop pods for free. Now, why is Games Workshop doing this? 1, Space Marines need a point reduction, and this is a pretty big point reduction. You still have to pay for upgrades, so if you want to upgrade your Razorback to last cannons, you're going to have to pay for that, but you're not going to have to pay for the Razorback itself. And what I see as a very viable army are 2 battle demi companies with 3 5-man tactical squads each, 1 set taking Razorbacks, because you only have 5 people, and the other set taking drop pods. I think that's going to be an incredible army. But looking at the Codex, I really like the layout of it, I really like the rules that are in it, and I think overall it's really cool. So now we're moving on to page 194, and we're going to do a brief overview of some of the other formations. And again, on this page you're going to see in the top left corner of each formation box, it has a skull with a symbol in it. And if you go back to page 193 at the bottom, it uses these symbols to very easily tell you how to put it together. 1 to 2 core, 1 plus auxiliary, 0 to 3 command. And when you look at your formation chart, you can very clearly tell, okay, this is a core because it only has a skull and a circle. This is an auxiliary because it has a skull and an X. This is a command, it has a circle and an X. So back to page 194. The very first formation, I think, is going to be a must-take for almost every single army. It's the Librarius Conclave. And in this formation, it allows you to take 3 to 5 librarians. One of them can be Tigurius. And when you take this formation, it allows you to utilize the entire power of all of these librarians together in order to almost guarantee that you're going to get spells off. So if you choose to use one of the librarians only and have everybody else send him their positive psychic feedback, he will be able to cast spells on better than a 4+. And that does change depending on how many you have in the unit and whatnot. You can go ahead and take a look at that. But this is a cheap option to bolster your army. I mean, the librarian models themselves, in terms of actual dollars, you know, pounds and dollars and not just point cost, you know, not that expensive. You know, like 3 librarians, if you're already playing Space Marine, you probably have 1 or 2, you probably already have chief librarian. And if you don't, getting 3 of them is not that expensive. So it's definitely one of the easier formations to be able to bring. It is a command choice, which means that it does take up a command slot of your 0 to 3. But overall, it's not going to cost you a lot of real world money, and it's not going to cost you a lot of points. And I think it's going to give you an amazing, amazing abilities on the battlefield. So really quick, we also have the Anti-Air Defense Force, the Storm Wing, the Suppression Force, the Centurion Siegebreaker Cohort, the Land Raider Spearhead, the 1st Company Task Force, the Armored Task Force. Of course, we have our Battle Demi Company, our Strike Force Command, and our Command Squad. These are all really good, but I would say that most of them require a lot of models. So clearly Games Workshop is trying to get us to buy more models. Particularly, they're trying to get us to buy a lot more vehicles, and as we know, vehicles are expensive, both in point cost, but also in real world dollars. But overall, Space Marines being able to take more vehicles is absolutely incredible. Overall, this is what I've seen, and this does change. Not all of the units follow this profile, but this is pretty much what I've seen. The unit point cost of troops have gone down a little bit. Basic weapons like heavy bolters and things like that have gone down a little bit, and some of the heavier weapons have either remained the same or gotten more expensive. But that is augmented by the formations allowing you to take a free drop pod or a free Rhino or a free Razorback, because the points that you would have spent on the Rhino, you can now add heavy weapons to your troops, or you can add heavy weapons to your Rhino, or you can, you know, use those points to get the Land Raider in some of the bigger formations. So overall, I think that Space Marines have been made a little bit cheaper to field in terms of points. Maybe more expensive to buy considering the amount that you need now, but definitely cheaper to field. So yeah, the Land Raiders are incredible. I'm going to take a look at one more unit in this video, and my favorite Space Marine unit of all time is the Thunderfire Cannon. And I was really worried that they were going to get rid of the Thunderfire Cannon because, in my opinion, it can be a little bit OP for 100 points. But instead of getting rid of it, they made it so much cooler. So, Thunderfire Cannons may now be taken as a squad with a maximum of 3 Thunderfire Cannons. They are still 100 points each. They still pretty much have the same stats: weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 5, strength 4. The Thunderfire Cannon is toughness 7, the Tech Marine is 4. It has 2 wounds on each one of them. Initiative 4, attacks 2, leadership 9, save 3+ on the Thunderfire Cannon, save 2+ on the Tech Marine Gunner. I have to check the plus on the Thunderfire Cannon. That might actually be worse, but I'm not sure, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the old Space Marine Codex, which is really one of the things that I just love about the enhanced editions. It's so easy to get back and forth. So no, the save is the same. So I'm in the old Codex, the previous Codex rather, and the Thunderfire Cannon is also a 3+. However, the ballistic skill of the Tech Gunner is better. The ballistic skill has been moved from 4 to 5. On top of that, when you take 3 Thunderfires together, you get a special rule called Converging Targeting. While this unit includes 3 Thunderfire Cannons, all Tech Marine Gunners in this unit have +1 ballistic skill, which means you have a 6 ballistic skill for determining your scatter. That is fantastic. There are a whole bunch of other rules that we need to read in terms of how all 3 of them shoot together, and one of the negatives is, you know, the Whirlwind, the Thunderfire Cannon, the Predators, the Vindicators, all of these things, the Dreadnoughts, can be taken in units of 0 to 3, and most of them have an additional special rule for when you have 3, but if you lose one on the field, then you lose that special rule. So that's it for this video. In my next video, I'm going to be going into some of the actual forces. We're going to be starting with sort of our troop choices and our HQ choices, and we're going to be comparing the old stats and the new stats. Overall, I am extremely happy with this codex. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about the independent books for the different factions, and if you've gone to GameWorkshop.com, you'll also notice that Space Marines has been broken out between the different factions. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work. Part of me thinks that it's really cool because if you are like super into White Scars and you get your own book and you get special models and you get all this stuff. But I'm actually into kind of making my own chapter and doing what I want with my units, not necessarily what the storyline says. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work out for my gameplay, but it's really cool to be able to have nice collectibles and nice things to booster the army that you love to play. It does make it a little bit more expensive, in my opinion, to go between armies, but we can talk about that later. Thank you for joining me on this first video about Space Marines and the new Codex in Warhammer 40k, and remember, Cool Guys Nation.